Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here. Not coming at you from the Knife Center today because, well, it's the holidays, going out on Christmas Day today, and we figured we'd do something a little more laid back today. So Seth and I are joining up from our respective abodes to talk about the things we picked up this year. What are the things that, you know, we see a lot of knives. What are the things that were worth it enough that we put our hard-earned dollars down on them? So I'm going to start by throwing things to Seth because even though we're a week before New Year's, you had a pretty good knife New Year's resolution last year. Um, so let's tell them what that was, and we'll start seeing how you did.
Well, beginning of last year, I resolved to push my collection in a bit of a different direction. I wanted to buy more fixed blades and fewer Spydercos. We'll see how I did, but I guess spoiler alert, like most New Year's resolutions, it didn't go exactly as planned.
Well, show us the first thing then. Like, what do you want to show us one of your attempts at enlarging your
Yeah,
fixed blade collection?
yeah, let's start with a fixed blade I had been meaning to pick up for a long time because it fills a hole in my collection that I kind of think everybody should have a solution for. That's a survival knife, and I went with the SE6. Um,
Solid choice.
yeah, what really pushed me over the edge to spend my money on this knife was the new contoured handles. They came in either late last year or at some point this year. I'm not sure, but as soon as I got my hands on them, I noticed the difference right away. It really, really makes this knife, turns it from something that leans a little harder towards tactical into something that borrows kind of from the more bushcraft tradition, really focusing on handle comfort.
Yeah.
Um, the SE6 is it's my favorite SE design. I'm not going to say it's the best because they kind of makes lots of different knives for different niches. But as a survival knife, I really think it's one of the best out there. 1095 steel, super tough, simple stuff.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, fantastic quality, just the right size. Big enough to do some chopping. I wouldn't say machete-like tasks, but you can
Yeah,
swing it around.
within reason, like some medium duty stuff. I mean, it's
Definitely.
it's the SE6. It's hard to go wrong, especially with those new contoured handles.
Hmm.
Barely cost that much more than the old flat scaled versions. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
within
yeah.
$10 ish. No
It
brainer.
it was an easy sell for me. The upgrades are well worth the few extra dollars. And the knife is the same great knife it's always been, just take it to that extra level.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I didn't necessarily pick up what I'd call a survival knife this year. Well, I didn't really have a resolution like you, but I will say I'm always on the lookout to be building my Nessmuk collection. Um, Folks here may have heard me talk about Nessmuk as the blade shape or not, but they're obviously a very useful kind of hunting knife pattern historically. But I just love the aesthetics, and it's a style of knife that I purchase to collect, not as much to use. I'm just getting too excited. I'm trying to talk about Nessmuks real super early.
Yeah, for those who don't know, David's collection, I guess I would say centers around Nestmuks. It's like definitely one of the driving passions for knives you actually put your money down on.
Yeah, and again, it's not a style of knife I necessarily carry all the time, but it's my art collection. Um, I'll show a few of those. The let me go with the first one that I got this year. It's the LT Wright Camp Muck. And this is
Nice.
one of either two or three Camp Mucks I acquired this year. I can't remember for sure. Um, but this is the most special one. This one, if you look at the handles here, The colors on this were designed to kind of pay tribute to, or I basically I spec this out and asked LT if he would build it for me as a celebration when this YouTube channel hit 100,000 subscribers.
Hmm.
I thought it was worth commemorating. It was a big achievement, and the colors here are designed to kind of echo the shirt that I typically was wearing at the time.
Oh,
We
no
upgraded to the
way.
green shirt
That's
now.
funny.
Yeah, so I had that maroon shirt. It had little orange. It had the orange logo and white striping. So you've got orange and white liners. You've got a color very close to the shirt, and the stag bolsters are like my face, I guess.
Channel regulars are going to love that the burgundy shirt is back in knife form. That's kind
In
of
knife form,
unbelievable.
right here. The other cool story about this knife is they had glued up the handles, put the handles together in 2020, and on day one of 2021, when they came back to work, this was the first knife they shaped the handles down on.
Hmm.
Sort of like, may this knife lead us to better times from 2020. Jury's out whether that happened or not, but this is the first knife to be completed or to be shaped out and completed from the LT Wright shop in 2021. Very cool.
Yeah, sweet. Cool story.
Um, let me just show the rest of the Nesmucks here right up top. So we'll get them out of the way, and then we'll
Okay.
let you, because there's a bunch here. Like I said, I got a couple other Camp Mucks this year, but I also got a Lil Muck from LT Wright. Very cool knife in 3V with file work on the back and these really cool yellow bone handles.
My cat's interjecting. Uh, Say hello to Lentil, everybody. He says
Hi,
hi.
Lentil. But yeah, really little cool little knife right here. I know Seth is a big fan of this one as well.
Yeah, that is probably my favorite Nesmuk of yours that I've seen. In person, it's so charming. The size is just wonderful. The bone handles are delicious.
Beyond that, another really special one this year is from a smaller maker named Mike McCarter. And this is based on the Kephart knife, actually, an original Cole Klesser's, which belongs to Ethan Becker. And Mike is a friend of Ethan's and was able to kind of get a good look at that original knife. The Cole Klessers also made a Nessmuck pattern way back in the day too. I'm talking early 1900s right now for the people who don't know. And there's one photograph of that knife out there that I know of. So this knife took the lessons from that Kephart knife combined with the photo of the Cole Klesser Nessmuck, and he made a Cole Klessmuck essentially. You know, double convex. It's convexed towards the edge and towards the spine. It's got a very graceful shape. The wood on it came out great. There's a real nice shimmer to it. Slightly tapered tang on this guy. Just came out really nice. The sheath he did on it is gorgeous as well. Check that bad boy out.
Ooh, yeah. Looks like some
Very
nice.
cool.
Is that buffalo or some sort of different texture there?
It's just a different texture. I think it's I haven't asked him. I've assumed it's all just your standard cow leather. Um, Very cool knife. Also got that real early this year. And then the last one is this is one of those things. They're hard to define blade shapes. We talked about this recently, and for something like this kind of treads the line between is it a Nessmuck or is it just an upswept hunting skinner type of knife? Kind of looks enough like a Nessmuck to me that I went ahead and grabbed it. We recently started carrying this brand here at the Knife Center. I've camped with John Kaufman, who makes this knife, and this one was just super cool. Ram horn for the handles, really narrow tapered tang. Just such a cool blade. Such a cool blade.
Nice. The in person, that ram's horn is has that beautiful translucence, and then the
Yeah,
tapered tang on top of everything is it just really elevates the balance of that knife in hand. It feels very dexterous, even though it's not a super skinny, pointy, quick type of knife.
right. And just look how narrow he got that tapered tang on there too. It's just boop, super tiny. Love it, love it, love it. All right, that's it from the Nesmucks for this video. I did
Okay, I
acquire
mean,
more than that, but these are the favorites.
I will go with the second and final fixed blade that I bought this year. And maybe this is why I stopped at two, because the Todd Hunt M18 is enough fixed blade for just about anybody. Um, in fact, it was your fault that I bought this, David, because you kind of talked me through how this thing works. I don't have the lanyard on it at the moment, but it's really built to it's balanced so that you can hang it around your arm and get
Mhm.
up close to the tip to almost use it like kind of a skinning tool, or I don't know, an ulu or something. The blade shape is very inscrutable. I'm not even going to attempt to describe what it is. Uh,
For folks who
it's
do want to know more, we have done a review of this knife, so we'll leave a link to that if you want to see more. I'm so happy you bought that knife. I know you were talking yourself into it over the course of several weeks.
Yeah,
And as the owner of one myself, I knew you weren't going to be disappointed. So I'm really glad you got it.
it's so much fun. Uh, and it's made by one man from one shop who really knows what he's doing. Um, I don't buy a lot of custom knives, but I do see a lot more value in custom fixed blades. Uh, and this is part of what really convinced me of that. It's just special. I love each one's a little different. The checkering on the handle of this one is
Hmm.
something special. Adds a bit of grip. The handle, you may recognize the silhouette from. It's not identical to the Beckers out there, but it's quite similar. I think it was inspired, maybe even developed with Ethan Becker. I know that they have a friendly relationship. Um, and the Becker handle, of course, is great. Good for chopping, just great for a solid grip. Uh, it's a powerful, powerful fixed blade, and I guess it was enough to keep me satiated, because the rest of the knives I bought were all folders.
Spoiler alert, might have been a lot of Spydercos.
Yes. Although I give myself kind of a pass for one little detail, which I'll get into later. Um, but what
Well,
about
I
you?
want
Did
to
you get
share
any more
now.
fixed blades?
Yeah, I want to share my big chopper I bought this year. The funny thing, like I'm sitting in my home office right now. I'm sitting in front of my drawers of knives, so I do have a lot of choppers in it. But this is the only kind of real hefty chopper I got this year, the Work Tough Nomad Camp Knife. Admired what these guys are doing for a long time. We were able to bring this, be the first U.S. dealer to carry Work Tough here in the States. We've had a few batches of their stuff come through. Talk about a powerful blade here, too. Even thicker than the quarter-inch thick steel of that M18.
Whoa.
I mean, it's a monster. You got a couple different handle positions. You've got the finger choil you can choke up to balance it out a little bit better. My only regret with this particular knife is I've not gotten to use it enough, which is another theme you're going to see in my stuff this year. I only made it on to one. I've only completed one camping trip this year, and you can see I've got a little bit of scuff marks on it from that, but we didn't use it heavily, and that was it. The second camping trip I tried to go on this year, I had to leave early because my daughter was decided to be born early, so I had to leave. But man, what a knife! Like it's like the M18. It's one of those things. As soon as you pick it up, you go, "Wow, holy crap, this is amazing!" Yeah, very
Yeah,
very cool knife.
sweet. Yeah, hopefully when the weather warms up, I look forward to taking both these new fixed blades out, really putting them through their paces.
Very nice.
Hmm.
The only other big fixed blade I got this year is the Cold Steel Drop Forged Bowie. which if you've watched our or my best of the year video, I love this thing. This is my favorite knife this year. I think it's just I don't even think I it's my favorite knife. The balance, the alive feeling of it is phenomenal. I won't get too much into it since we just covered that in another video. Just encourage you to go watch that if you're interested.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I mean, I didn't love it enough to buy it, but I must admit it's not at all what I was expecting when I pulled it out of the sheath. It definitely has a, a deftness, a character. Uh, yeah, a lot more special in person than it seems from the paper specs and from the pictures on the
Oh yeah,
website.
one hundred
Especially, I
percent.
mean, someone like me who I might have written it off because of something as simple as the synthetic stag scales. To me, that is, it doesn't make a knife special. But in person, I don't know, they're charming, they're cool, they feel nice. It makes the handle a nice, comfy shape. Um, yeah, definitely a
It
cool
it
knife and
just
not what you're expecting.
yeah, it's greater than the sum of its parts. Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. All right. All right. Why don't you show him something next?
Okay, so I've worked at the Knife Center now for just about 2 years, and one of the things that I learned kind of from working on more of like the supply side of the industry as opposed to just being a consumer, which I was a passionate knife collector for years before I ever started working in the industry. But uh, I was surprised to learn just how few production knives are actually made. Uh, I think I had the perception going into it that a production knife is always going to be available at least for a good long time. There's always a chance to get it. They're production knives because they're going to keep them in production. But the realities of the industry are such that if something is not a hit, it's not likely to stick around. Even if a company was really trying to make as many as they can, uh, these knives are a lot more rare than you might think. And I was kind of inspired by that newfound knowledge to go back and pick up some vintage knives that are not being made anymore, that will not come back. And I guess let me show the first one. It is a Spyderco, but it's one you can't get today. It is the Jess Horn Lightweight. This was a sprint run with ZDP 189 steel, clad in that very Japanese construction. This is the design. I think is great. I'm very fond of Spyderco backlocks in general, uh, and I don't know. There's a charm here and some details I don't think you would see on a modern Spyderco knife. For one thing, that clip is anything but deep carry. Uh, but for another, the pattern on FRN, it's kind of like a cheesy like Fendi bag or something. Like it just says Jess
Hmm.
Horn, Jess Horn, Jess Horn, Jess Horn all over it as the handle texture. I just found that detail so charming. I kind of had to pick it up, and I'm really glad I did. It's a great user, and maybe Spyderco will bring it back, but I doubt it will look like this.
Right. Yeah. What about some other? Show some more of these vintage knives. That's
Okay.
really cool.
Yeah, so the Jess Horn was one. Going even further back into Spyderco's history, this is a really old one. I think 1996, in fact, the C25 Centofonte. So
Yeah. I mean,
designed
if
by
people
Frank
know,
Centofonte.
yeah. I mean, Spyderco's model name, model numbers go sequentially. Um, so any new model just gets the next number up after the C. So if that's the 25, that is quite early in the history.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're now in the 300s, somewhere there. Might be wrong about that, but yeah, we're way, way past 25. So this is really diving deep. This one, even more than the Jess Horn, is such an old-fashioned knife. Tip down only. So right there, that's going to be a no for a lot of people. But on a vintage knife like this, I find it kind of charming, and there's definitely a place for it in my collection. Um, Fully serrated blade, not in style anymore either. And it's a blade steel you can't get anymore either. ATS 34. A
Oh,
liner lock
34,
with aluminum handle.
not even the ATS 55.
Nope, 34. 34. Missing a couple ATS there. Interestingly, this one is USA made. So Spyderco's first knives were made in Japan, I believe. This may have been one of the very first knives to be made in the USA. Cool little piece of Spyderco history. It still works great. I enjoy carrying this maybe as like kind of a second knife in my back pocket. It fits in. I'm definitely the kind of guy now who carries more than one knife all the time. So, I can have something like this and have it be kind of a weird pick and not
Right.
feel like I'm unprepared with a more kind of general, I'll carry something more general purpose along with it. Check out the
Mhm.
backspacer too. I'll pull it up to the camera. I
Yeah,
know Thomas is going to get B-roll, but just funky
that's
little
cool
details
detailing.
like that. Phillips head
Yeah.
screws. I don't know. I find stuff like that really, really charming. And I'm glad I kind of dove back into the archives to pick up some stuff like this year. Uh, shall I keep rolling? I got a couple
Yeah,
more.
yeah. Take us through all the vintage stuff. We'll cover kind of the story, this clump of your story together.
Okay. I guess we have one more Spyderco. It's not that vintage, but it is discontinued. The Hungarian. This was a design when it was in production. I was not interested in all in it. It seemed weird. Uh, didn't seem like a knife I would want to carry. But the gentleman who designed this knife designed one of my favorite Spydercos from the last year or so, the Astute. Um, when I got that knife in hand and was so impressed with it, I kind of rethought the Hungarian. I wanted to go back and see what what kind of character he had to offer in a design with as much personality as this. And I got to say, I really like it. I don't think the ergonomics will work for everybody, but they worked for me, and I really like the this knife as an EDC. I think it works.
It's got
It's
a really
comfortable.
cool shape going on. Is that a
Mm-hmm.
so? Is that an Ed Shemp design?
No, it is not.
'Cause it
I
reminds
can't
me a bit
remember.
of one of his.
Definitely, it's got this the that Ed Shemp character with the kind of the extra flare and the very negative blade angle. Uh, but it's not. I'm forgetting his name now. Please forgive me if you're out there and happen to see this. Perhaps Thomas can put his name on screen when he edits this. But I'm really impressed with his designs. I hope he collaborates with Spyderco again. Uh, I dig it. And this is part of the Ethnic series. So it is a modern take on a traditional knife from Hungary. Uh, yeah.
Very nice.
Okay. One more vintage knife. And this one's pretty special because it's designed by Bob Lovelace himself. This is a city knife, a little slip joint made by a now defunct cutlery company in Italy called Fantoni.
Hmm.
They are sadly no more because this is really exceptionally well made. I wish I could buy a modern knife from them. I'd love to see what they would make now if they were still in business. But um, yeah, Bob Lovelace, of course, his designs are legendary. Made the drop point blade shape as popular, made it what it is today. Um,
Absolutely.
and this knife looks a little strange. You may notice that the blade is significantly shorter than the handle, but it works in hand. I wanted to trust Bob Lovelace that he knew what he was doing, and he certainly did because this is a joy to use. Uh, Nice little
And the
contouring to the scales.
Yeah, and the tolerances on that are very good. You showed that to me when you first got it in. I was just as impressed with how just beautifully and well crafted it was.
Yeah, yeah, it's nice. Another one of those second knives. You know, I would carry this in my pocket along with another knife, and just just enjoy them both at the same time, I guess.
Nice.
Uh, let's see. Before we go on, let's maybe why don't you show a couple?
All right. I mentioned when I showed that work tuck, one of the themes for me this year is I've not gotten to use all of my knives as much as I wanted to, and that really has come into play with a number of the smaller pocket knives and another fixed blade here I've got. I've got some true or picked up some knives this year with some truly awesome blade materials, and I have not done nearly enough to even make them break a sweat. Like the amount of performance on tap versus how much of them I've taken advantage of is pretty small. Um, I'll start with one of my Blade Show pickups. That was this Cub from Dogwood Custom Knives in Magna Cut steel, which of course is the hot ticket this year. Um, it's a great knife. The geometry is great. You got a thin blade, you got a flat saber grind going on, really cool burlap handles. It is a deft little cutter. I reprofiled it. I put my own convex edge on it versus what it was supplied with, and I have an easy enough time doing that because I've got power tools that can do it for me. So I can't even tell you if MagnaCut's hard to sharpen because it's held an edge great since I've done that. But again, I haven't pushed it as far as I need to really get acquainted with the steel.
Mm-hmm.
I need to rectify that. But this is just one of several knives that this has happened to me this year. Um, Really cool knife. I've also picked up one of the S90V bug outs this year. Um,
Nice.
I've kind of fallen in love with the bug out this year as well. I've been carrying my standard version quite a lot recently with some Titanium G10 scales on it. I had another knife, an S90V, at one point, but I didn't keep it long enough again to really get acquainted with the steel. And this particular bug out's a real recent pickup for me as well, dedicated to being a more of a gentleman's carry. So I haven't been carrying this day to day either, but it's awesome steel, right? It also has a thing that you're going to see on some of the knives I purchased this year. That's always something I really gravitate towards, and that is a lock system that you can operate while keeping your fingers out of the path of the blade. Their
Mm-hmm.
axis lock in this case. Always appreciate that just as sort of passive safety measure. You don't have to think about it to take advantage of it. The next in this story of woe of not properly working out the incredible blade steels is the Sandrin Torino, kindly given to me by the folks at Sandrin to kind of test out. And I've cut a bunch of cardboard with it. Haven't made it go dull yet, but need to push it harder. It needs more. It needs more grunt. It needs more push. But you've got that really cool cobalt blade material. It's like 73 Rockwell hardness, I want to say.
Crazy stuff.
Um, Crazy stuff. And you've got a spine mounted lock, very similar to the Demco Shark lock in the way you operate it, but another lock where you can keep your fingers out of the path of that blade. Really, really appreciate that kind of feature. And then the next one, which actually I think is going to make a good transition back into some of the stuff that you bought, is this Delica in the K390 steel. I picked this up this year. Another crazy high edge retention steel, one of the highest steels, or the highest edge retention you can get in a steel these days. Not necessarily the highest, but it's way up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I wanted a Delica back in my collection. I have a Delica 3. This is obviously the Delica 4 here. Delica 4 has been a knife I recommend a lot, and I realized I didn't have one on hand to be able to show people I was recommending it to. So I knew I had to rectify that, and when the K390 stuff came back into stock, I pulled the trigger on that. I knew that was what I had to do, or wanted to do. This one probably got some of the most use. I've used it a fair bit. We even used it in our Cardboard Slayers video. I've not touched it up. It is still splitting sharp right now, so I need to work this harder as well.
Hmm.
Super great knife, whether you get the K390 or otherwise for just about anyone. It's ambidextrous, four position clip, 3-inch blade, utilitarian profile. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, kind of a good problem to have, I guess. Steels are so good these days. We can hardly even see how good they are because they don't go
Yeah.
gold.
But I think you also picked up a K390 Spyderco this year.
I sure did. I got K390 straight spine stretch. Uh,
I love that knife too.
it is really good. And I mean, really good. I'm comfortable saying that this is, before I drop this bombshell, let's get, I think Lentil needs a little attention. Okay. Uh, as I was saying, I think this knife is one of the best knives Spyderco has ever made. Um, in the top five
Wow.
for sure, top three maybe. Um, it's a bit of a sleeper. It's not a flashy knife, but I was really testing that idea myself, rolling it around in my head, comparing it with other knives that I really like from Spyderco. Um, it really, this design with the straight spine, the redesign, totally begs the comparison to the Paramilitary 2.
Yeah,
And
the
I'm
size is
very
so similar.
neck and neck. Yeah, in proportion, in overall size, everything. Uh, I'm totally comfortable saying that this is a better knife than the Paramilitary
Hmm.
2. Um, Partially because the things that the Paramilitary 2 does better are not things that I value that much. So it's not as fidgety. The compression lock is much more fun to manipulate, and the Para 2 has that great kind of aftermarket support. You can upgrade it, makes a nice little cat petter. You can upgrade a Para 2 with any number of different scales and materials, and that's really cool. But 10 out of 10 times, I would rather have a stretch 2 in my pocket as a tool. I think it's more comfortable. I think the blades, it's not a lot thinner, but it's meaningfully thinner, so it slices a little better. K390 is excellent stuff. This just feels like a labor of love for Spyderco. Sal's been revisiting this design for so many years now. It's really been refined to perfection. I urge anybody who thinks they might like it to try this out. It really is that good.
Very cool. Yeah. Talk amongst yourselves in the comments. We'll see. I love it. I love you staking out the position like that because I think it's a great knife too. I really do.
Yeah. I even was inspired by how much I liked this knife to get, we're going back to the vintage stuff a little bit. I got a stretch one this year just to see where it all started. I guess maybe it would start with the worker, which had this, or the hunter, I believe, which had this very funky blade shape that Spyderco calls a drop point, but I don't know that I would call
Yeah,
it a
the
drop point.
the worker had more of that really acute tip, but the similar kind of profile though overall.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very Spyderco blade shape. It works really well. It is a little bit funky looking. I think the straight spine stretch is a great move to get a lot of people to try the design who would not have given it a second look otherwise. Uh,
Nice.
and having handled both, I gotta say the ergonomics are better on the new one. I think it's going to fit more hands better. The choil's a little bigger. The refinements were all good moves, I think. But I still
Nice.
love the stretch one. I do carry it still and enjoy it for, I guess, its place in Spyderco history.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool.
Um,
I
oh, you
think
mentioned
what
your bug out.
else?
I'll show really quick
I did.
that I got a bug out for the very first time this year. I am extremely late to the bug out party. Uh, this is the KnifeCenter exclusive version with the battle washed scales. which I really like because FRN can be a little bit edgy the way it gets injection molded. But the battle wash treatment they gave on these kind of rounded and softened the edges a little bit, so it's definitely more ergonomic. Yeah, I can't argue with the bug out. It's fantastic. It's like never the wrong knife to carry. The bug out just works every time.
It all comes down to that blade itself. It's just a thin, super slicey drop point. It's just a modern pocket knife. It just slices. Man, it's great.
Yeah, totally, totally.
I've
So
got some
news to
fun.
nobody, but it's a great
Oh
knife.
yeah, I've got some fun exclusives talk. Obviously, that has been a discontinued exclusive. I also had to go to the aftermarket to dig up a Knife Center exclusive that I missed the first time around, the Smooth G10 and Crewwear Manix 2.
Nice.
Kindly picked this up off of one of the forums I frequent. I think the LT Wright forum, actually. Um, won't spend too much time on this guy, but again, it's got one of those styles of locks I really like. Crewwear is a great steel. I also picked up our two Hogue exclusives this year, the Deca. This is one of
Hmm.
the Gen 1 Decas with the clip point and the 20 CV blade. This was actually kind of a response to us not being able to continue doing that Benchmade exclusive. We wanted something similar since Benchmade their battle wash thing was kind of an experiment and they didn't want to continue it, which is fine. So we kind of have this now as another option. And I also picked up the Hogue made Sig K320, which they very graciously agreed to start doing based on our request to do an uncoated blade. So we got the stonewash blade on this. Really cool knives. Actually, kind of similar to that Manix I just showed you
Yeah.
as well. I'll
I,
put up a.
oh, yeah. I hadn't considered that, but they are rather similar, aren't they?
They're not too far off. So kind of cool.
Not similar
Uh,
in design, but similar in vibe and intention and purpose.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Do you pick up any other of our exclusives this year?
I did. This is the Para 3 all black crew wear. Uh, the Para 3 is not my favorite knife. I mean, I like it, but it's not my favorite knife. But for some reason, I own more Para 3s than anything else. They're really collectible. I don't know. They're just great. Kind of like the bug out. Like you'll never carrying a Para 3 is never the wrong choice. It's tough, but still slicey. It's a great size, but with a nice big handle, kind of compact blade. It's great. I don't have to explain to people why the Para 3 is great, but this exclusive version, I really like the smooth scales. I'm tired of tearing up my jeans, so I appreciate the
Yeah,
lack of texture. Because when you have nice ergonomics like this, good finger scallops, you don't need a ton of texture in order to have a really, really solid grip.
definitely. Well, you were talking about the Becker handles earlier. It's the same deal. With if the shape and the contours are right, you don't necessarily need traction to have a good grip.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, I've got a few more to show. I want to mention one other thing. People asking, we're talking about this knife or this video on what people who are around all knives all the time, what do we see as worth spending money on? And it's not
Yeah.
all just expensive stuff. Um, we did our $50 knife challenge earlier this year, and honestly, we both picked great knives, I think. You have the D2 Dozier from K-Bar,
I do.
and I've got the Badlands Vagabond, and I know people in the comments hate how I pronounce that. I'm very sorry. I I love this knife in particular. I think they really show both of these knives show how much utility and good stuff you really can get for your money these days. I mean, 32 for yours, $40 for this.
Yeah. Yeah, I carried it, that month. It was a whole month, wasn't it, that we carried these?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then I kept carrying it for like a week or so more. It's a great knife. I like carrying it. Yeah.
If this got misplaced or lost somewhere, I would buy another one because this it works really well. It's a knife I can take places where I don't have to worry if I'm going to lose it. And this right here, right now, is my dedicated travel knife. If I need to throw a knife into a checked bag and not have to worry about if something happens to it, I will never be disappointed using this when I get to my destination. It's just a great little knife.
Totally. Yeah, I love budget knives, especially good ones. Um, I've said this before in like posts on Instagram and stuff, but I admire a budget knife that does an excellent job more than an expensive knife that's excellent. I just think it's harder to make a great knife under such budgetary constraints, and I really do
Yeah,
legitimately appreciate when that happens. And I consider this every bit as an important piece of my collection as some of those vintage Spyderco's or what have you.
nice, nice. I guess the last big thing I want to talk about today is kind of the other theme of things that I kind of got into this year. Um, and for me that's been bigger folders. I've have had bigger folders in the past and came into this year with some of them. I think last year especially got me thinking about uncertain times. There's something reassuring about maybe having a bigger knife in certain situations,
Mm-hmm.
right, wrong, or indifferent. But I mean, I've carried things from like a 3 to 3 1/4 inch blade has for a long time been such a good size for my needs
Mm-hmm.
that while I appreciated bigger knives, I didn't have like the one, and I kind of tried to go on that journey a little bit this year. Um, Not quite sure I've landed yet, but I'll go through a couple of the things. Um, the Triway Jurassic from Hinderer, kind of a slightly bigger knife. It's not like the full, like a huge knife. I actually won this in the Knife Rights fundraising raffle this year, which was really awesome.
You lucky
Solid
dog.
knives. Oh, very happy about that. Actually, one of two Hinderers I got this year. I picked up one of these Flashpoint fixed blades at Blade Show, which was good because I didn't have a genuine Hinderer in my collection before this year. Now I've got two. Um, but the Triway Jurassic, of course, you've got the Triway pivot system. You've got ball bearings installed out of the box. Flips great. Super solid feel in the hand. I mean, the build quality is unassailable. Interesting handle with the hump here. Kind of changes the ergos and how you would do some more detailed work. For instance, choking back behind that little apex there to help you use the tip more delicately. Normally, you feel
Hmm.
like you choke up to use the tip more delicately, but for me, I'm getting more control choked back, which is kind of interesting. Um, Nice thick 20 CV blade, very nice. I also picked up a full size Adamas this year. Really happy to see these back in the lineup. Really happy they went with Crewwear steel as they upgraded to the D2. Love my crossbar locks. I mean, this is just a monster as well. Speaking of Blade Show, I also kind of picked up a new Sabenza this year. It's not the first full size Sabenza I've had, but it's the first full size drop point Sabenza, and this is a Sabenza 31. It was time to have a drop point full size Sabenza in my life. Obviously, more deliberate, less tactical of a big knife,
Mm-hmm.
but well worth every penny. This has a little Blade Show bead on the back. So that's
Oh,
my
that's cool.
third Blade Show pickup. Even though I picked it up technically after the show, I was able to locate one. But I'm gonna still count it because it's got the bead right there.
Sweet.
Never a bad. I never feel bad about spending money on a Chris Reed. Like the quality is just unassailable. And then
I
last,
know, and they are so
oh
pricey
gosh,
too, but I, they're worth it. They're worth it.
and then the last big knife, which so far is my favorite. I just think that the ergos are working a little bit better for me than some of these other knives, and the blade steel is a little bit thinner. We showed these very recently, the Demco AD20S. Um, I just talked about being glad Benchmade upgraded the D2 to Crewwear in the Adamas, whereas this knife still is dealing with D2 at this point, but it comes down
Well,
to the
now you don't have
design
to
for
feel any guilt because you're not using the steel to its full potential.
right, right. But the blade shape is great. The steel's a little bit thinner, but it's still plenty thick for strength. You got a full 1/8 inch. You've got the shark lock there, so you've got another style of lock that lets me do that finger clearance thing that I really appreciate. And I know these have been hard to come by. I waited till we had a really big batch in stock before I kind of put my money down to try and give everyone a chance to get one of these if they wanted one. Um, I'm really digging it so far. It's got a little bit of a different character. It's still a plenty big knife. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
so
the
far so good though.
AD-20 is the real deal. I have already decided I'm going to buy one. I just haven't found the perfect one for me yet. So I'm really glad you decided to take one home. I really look forward to
Yeah.
seeing, your kind of longer term thoughts on it. Um, yeah, I think it's a pretty special knife, and I'm really interested to see where Demco kind of takes it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But anyway, that's kind of the big knife story. Those there were a couple others I think that crossed in my possession that I have not hung on to or let go. Actually, that Mannix 2 was one of them that I showed you earlier, as was that Sig. Um, not too much bigger than some of the knives that already lived in a good place in my collection. But again, I've been more heavily investing in exploring that genre this year.
Yeah. I guess I, I already had quite a few large folders. That's a type of knife that I enjoy quite a bit. Uh, Perhaps because for a while when I was traveling more, they make such good impromptu kitchen knives, like a nice big slicer. But I uh, I got a lot of smaller knives this year, and in fact, some of
Hmm.
these I will even affectionately call my old man knives because
Yeah,
this one, for example,
let's run through them.
yeah, this is the Moki Serapis. Maybe I'm getting better at this whole knife salesman thing because, like, I talked myself into buying this on video. For those who've seen the video, I picked this brand as an underrated pick. And as I was talking on video, I think it just hit me. I needed to buy this. This is a special knife. It really is underrated. And that very day after we filmed, I put in my order and took it home. Um, it's not a cool knife. It's a nail nick back lock with no pocket clip, VG10 steel. But man, I love the inlays on inlays going on here. We've got like
Mhm.
a linen micarta and then this mother of pearl little dots. So charming, so beautifully made. Just just a beautiful example of knife making and
Yeah,
a great little worker too. It's not a hard use knife, but man, it can open a mean package.
yeah. I'm all in on Moki as well, and that's one that your influence rubbed off on me. You kind of it's one of those. It was kind of one of those hidden treasures in our warehouse that I hadn't really seen before, and you kind of keyed in onto them, and we're bringing them over, and we were looking at them. Man, they are so good.
Yeah, when I heard they used to make most of the knives for Almar, back when Almar knives were made in Japan, I knew that they had some real knife making chops.
Yeah. All right, I
Um,
think we've got time now for probably one more knife each.
okay, cool.
And we're gonna I've got one, and I think after I show this one, I know what you're gonna show after it.
Okay,
Um, because we're gonna play the Little Autos game. And this year I snagged one of the Bounty Hunter Exo sets from Microtech.
nice.
The Exo set, some Microtech purists don't really like it. It's my favorite Microtech design. It really is. I love the broad money clip style handle on it. Gives you a nice, solid, chunky grip. You've
Mhm.
got a California compliant 2-inch blade, but it's plenty to work with. And being a bit of a sci-fi and Star Wars fan myself, the bounty hunter aesthetic here I just love it.
Yeah, the bounty hunter finish they do is so cool. It takes me back to battle damaged action figures and just yeah, gotta love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, you know what I'm going to show. This was my Blade Show pickup, ProTech Runt 5, in that Blade Show special configuration with the hand ground polished blade and the mother of pearl firing button. Uh, it's a special knife, and the form factor of a small automatic really won me over. I didn't think that there was really a place in my collection for an automatic knife. It just seemed, I don't know, superfluous. Like, you know, manual knives work so great these days. Why do I need an automatic? But I just can't argue with that. It's so cool, so instantaneous. ProTech does impeccable work. I love the texture on the
Absolutely.
handles. Yeah, just sweet. Very, very cool.
Very cool. Well, that's it for today. Everyone who's taken time out of their Christmas day to watch us, thank you for joining us. If you're watching later, thank you for joining us too. But we hope you all had a wonderful holiday, had a chance to be with friends, be with family, and everyone's staying nice and safe and be around for next year. Seth, thanks for sharing this stuff with our audience as well. I mean, it's a lot of fun to talk about what gets us excited.
Yeah, yeah. It's cool to see what you picked up. I know sometimes I even surprise myself with what I buy. You know, I think a certain type of knife is perfect for me, and then I end up with a whole different type of knife. So, you know, it's kind of that journey of finding out what works for you. And yeah,
Yeah. And it is. It's a journey. It's an exploration. To help you guys out, if you're interested in any of these knives that weren't that are current production and that weren't sprint runs or anything, we'll leave links where we can to some of these knives in the description of this video. That'll take you over to KnifeCenter.com, and I encourage you to sign up for our Knife Rewards program if you're going to pick something up. Because if you're going to spend some money on a cool knife, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next order too. So I'm David C. Anderson, and that's Seth V. We'll be back at the Knife Center very soon. Happy holidays. See you guys next time.